And Clark, you can go ahead.
Stan, Christian Clark here with Null.com. I know there were a number of things we talked about after the game last night. Just what was your immediate focus today with the team?
It was all on defense. I mean, look, we talked about what's been going on this road trip and everything. And if you look, like, we've played – the Lakers are the number one defensive team in the league right now. Utah's seventh. Clippers are in the middle of the pack. Sacramento, like us, has struggled defensively. So, by and large, we've played really good defensive teams. And in that 5-game stretch, we're 11th in the league offensively. So, we need to understand where our problems are. That's not to say that we don't need to get better at the offensive end of the floor, but we need to understand we're coming in and playing good defensive teams and playing fairly efficiently offensively, and we're just not getting the job done defensively. And so that was the focus. That was the entire focus of the film. We didn't show any offensive film. And it was 90% of the focus of practice. We did do a little bit of offense near the end.
And Stan, I mean, 4 of these past 5 games, I mean, you just hit on it a little bit. They've been against, I mean, really, really good teams. When you see that on the schedule, like, are you thinking, oh, man, are you thinking this is going to be a good challenge? Are you thinking it just is?
Yeah, pretty much it just is. Like, you can't worry about the schedule. You play each night's game as it comes up. And yeah, right now, Lakers, Clippers, Utah are the 3 best teams in the league. So, yeah, it's been a tough stretch. We can't get down about it. What we need to do is learn and get better. And at the defensive end of the floor, we've got to get our aggression back. We've got to be tougher. We've had stretches in all of those games where we've defended pretty well. And a lot of times you defend well and the other team still scores. And we have tended to drop our heads a little bit, get frustrated and discouraged instead of fighting through it. And that's something we talked about today also.
I'm assuming I'm next. What's up, Stan? This is Will from The Athletic. I think you probably just mentioned it there a little bit, but is there anything you look at when you watch the film and say, okay, we can do this immediately and fix some of our problems? I know there's probably a lot going on right now, but is there something you point to and say, hey, if we do this right now, we'll get better on defense?
Well, there's a lot of things. If we would do it immediately, we would get better defensively, but it usually is not an overnight thing when you're struggling. And it'll take some time, and it's about habit building. And our habits have slipped since the early part of the season, which is something I talked about even before the game yesterday. And we've got to find a way to get our habits back, but really to get a defensive disposition back where we play harder, where we're into people more, putting pressure on people, where we're closing out harder, where everything is just done at a higher level. And we've let it slip. And, we need to go to work to build better habits. So you don't build a habit in one game or in one practice or overnight. It's day after day after day after day.
And I know you guys changed things up a little bit with your pick and roll coverage against the Jazz. Is that something you want to stick with going forward, or was that just about that particular matchup?
Well, what I think we want to be able to do is, be able to make adjustments. And we hadn't been able to do that up until that point. So, we want to be able to adjust based on who we're playing, and even within a game to give people different looks. I think we're equipped to do that now. And we'll just, we'll decide from game to game and from, quarter to quarter or whatever it may be in a game.
Hey, Stan, it's Andrew from ESPN. I know we briefly talked about the road trip itself yesterday, but do you think, I guess, some of the issues are coming from the fact that guys are just very tired of being on this road trip and not really having much to do? And do you think that can be carrying over to the court, that it's just kind of weighing on them a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's certainly possible. It's a long road trip, but again, we've talked about stuff like that. Listen, I mean, we've got to find a way to go out and do our jobs when it's time to go. And our group's been great in practice, and for good stretches in in all of these games. We've just got to find a way to sustain it for longer, to shorten other people's runs, and to not get discouraged and frustrated, and just to continue to play. So that's our challenge going forward. It's our challenge tomorrow night as we try to end this trip on a good note.
Yeah, and I know Lonzo just came back, but how are you feeling just about your starting backcourt and where they are right now? Is that a pairing you want to stick with, or just how are you feeling about where they are?
It's interesting, and I just don't. That's not where my major thinking is. I mean, I'm not saying we don't think about that, but I see a team-wide loss of defensive disposition. I see times in games where we lose the will to move the ball and play together offensively. And so, we're not right now looking to point fingers or to change things up in terms of personnel. We need all those guys, and we need everybody to play at a higher level in those areas. And so that's where my focus is right now.
Stan, Andrew Doak from CBS in New Orleans. How much do you feel like some of those defensive lapses can carry over to the offensive side of the court, where maybe you could get some more production, or maybe that momentum is not able to be carried over because of some of those defensive lapses? I mean, do you feel like at times maybe your defense or your team could get down a little bit based on some of those buckets given up, so you can't carry that momentum over to the offensive side?
Well, I mean, that definitely happens, Andrew, but also I think more tangibly, what happens is us, like most teams in this league, our most productive offense comes off getting stops and be able to get out in transition and play. And when we don't get stops, and especially when we don't get stops for a long period of time, then we're facing set defense where we're not quite as good. And that's what's happened in all of these runs. It is sort of snowballed. We're not getting out where we're most productive, and we're not stopping people at the other end, and it's snowballed into long runs. And so we got to be better at both ends. But to me, our defense sets the tone, and we just have to get that disposition back of really thinking of ourselves as a defensive team, taking a lot of pride in that, working together in all of that, and developing our team spirit around that.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate the time.